It's Rick without the K. James presents, in my opinion, podcast.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.
Oh, this is a question I wrote. I thought we were going to have 3 people, but we got 2. So we can go a little bit longer if you'd like.
Right.
And this segment isn't to shit on any comic.
Uh-oh.
But
Sounds like we're going to shit on any comic.
I was thinking about it because there's a lot of comedy specials out in the last 3 or 4 years that aren't that special.
Okay.
And I've seen, this comic I will shit on because I never thought she really was funny, was Monique's special.
Oh, yeah.
And I think I'm shitting on it because you make a big scene to get on Netflix, and then that's what you deliver. Make us all shut our mouth if you are, and give us a special. Be like, damn, she was funny as fuck. She deserved that money.
Right.
But I think she just did the exact thing that she shouldn't have done. Is you bitched about it. You made it a big thing that Netflix wouldn't give you a special. You tried to turn against other people. You brought D.L. Hughley's name into the shit. You did all this other bullshit to get a special, and it wasn't special. Mm-hmm. And I feel like there's a lot of comedy specials out recently where I'm glad, being a comedian, that we're all getting our shots.
Right.
But some of us should wait. And there's a lot of those specials where you just look at and you're like, really? Like that's just one. Again, I can name a couple, but I don't want to shit on any comics. Yeah. It's just that I felt like maybe your special wasn't ready. Right. And I'm saying that because, as you may know, we were expected to shoot a special for the Bay Area, right? And that didn't work out. Got to postpone it. But I knew for myself, I'm not ready for an hour special. But let me give you a couple of comics that I think are funny out in the Bay and chop it down to some of our best 15, 20-minute sets, as it would have been if you got a half an hour special on Comedy Central back in the days. I think literally back then it was a 22-minute comedy ordeal because you got to give time for commercials and shit like that. So what you might think of as, that's so-and-so's half an hour special. Was it really? It was about 22 minutes.
Right.
So... And I felt like everybody that I had on the lineup was going to give us fire material. And I was going to edit it as such, too. And then send it to the comedians and be like, hey, what do you guys think? I just feel like I'm watching a lot of comedians that are getting specials right now. And I'm like, I think you're watering down the craft. Right. And you're making it worse for us that are still trying to come out with a special. Because people are going to start watching this shit and be like, I don't feel like comedy is what it used to be anymore.
But here's the thing, though, Rick. The ability to put your content out there is so even across the board now. It's evened out so much more over the last 10 years than it's ever been before. Because now you could be just some fucking dude in Kentucky and make a series of videos and get on. I mean, so. I don't know if we really have to worry so much about people putting out shitty content as something that's gonna oversaturate the market. No, you can't oversaturate the market if you put out shitty content because the market is not looking for shitty content. It's looking for good content. So if people put out shitty content, they're not clogging anything up. They're dissolving immediately because that's what happens. That still leaves the lane wide open for anybody who wants to make good content. So everybody's job is just to try to make good content. You know what I mean? Why? I don't know. I don't see it as a reason to look at other comics and other artists and discourage them from trying, from doing whatever the fuck they want to do. Because I'm like, dude, put out your special. Do whatever the fuck you want to do, There's no rules to this shit. So if you feel like you're good enough to do a special after 1 year, go for it. I mean, who am I to tell you? Now, when I watch your show, I'm going to laugh or I'm not. And that'll be my ultimate judgment. But I'm not going to sit here and tell any artist, you're not ready. It's like, dude, I'll give you my advice. But there's been some comics out there that are fucking blown up in less than a calendar year. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Why is that? Are we saying that everything is super controlled, or are we saying that anything can happen?
No, and to your point, what's it? The cream rises to the top type shit, right?
Yeah.
And I get that. I guess I'm more taken back by the fact of the powers that be are offering some of these comics the shit, like offering the specials to some of these comics that aren't ready.
But
Like,
you
as
make
a producer's
but you make it seem like
point
the
of view,
powers that be have an agenda for comedy. Is that what you're suggesting? Also, because
I think
that's
some of these streaming companies do though. I think some of these, I think they're trying to. At first, it was Netflix.
okay.
And then now it's other streamers that are it's they're trying to make something out of nothing sometimes, and we don't even really need these streamers anymore. To add on to your point is some of the hottest specials I've seen have been on YouTube and free fucking specials. You know what I mean? And it's just because the comedian knows too. Like, as long as my shit's good, just like you said, it'll put asses in the seats when I start touring.
Mm-hmm.
So who gives a fuck if I didn't make $2 million off of this is how I'm going to eat from now on?
yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, okay, Monique, you got that Netflix money, but everybody saw it. So who the fuck's going to want to come see your show now? That's the way.
Well, let
look
me
at
stop
it
you
now.
right there though. Let me stop you right there though, because that's a good question. If your shit sucks, who the fuck is gonna want to come see your show? The truth is, bro, that it's been proven that if you get a big special like that, people are gonna, statistically speaking, they're gonna buy more tickets to your next few shows after that shit drops. So to answer your question, it's like, who's gonna want to come see me after, even if I do a shitty ass Hulu special or Netflix special? Well, people that make their decisions based off of who they see on their timeline. Those are the people that are going to come see me. And that's what it's all about, bro. Like getting on that timeline. So because then you
Are you
go
going to buy a Monique ticket?
No, fuck no, I'm not. No, but that's because like I'm a comic and I'm a fan of Monique's, and I watched that and I was like, this is not something that I would pay for to watch or to listen. Like I'm glad I got this for free, But I've been doing, I've been paying attention to this type of stuff for a long time, and enough to formulate this opinion. So that's something to take into consideration. That's what I'm saying. You got to at least try to take that into consideration.
All right. Are you willing to give a name of a special that you didn't think was very special?
I mean, I agree with you on the Monique one, because she didn't even have like any. She basically went out there and just told the story of what happened to her, which is fine, but there was no punchlines, there was no jokes. Every now and then she might throw in like a little gut punch, you know what I'm saying? But it was nothing. She had no knockout blows. You know what I mean? And her special in terms of jokes. She was just up there talking about her situation and just what happened and just making it, making sure to make a point about how strong she was and her response and how she handled everything, which is fine, but there was no jokes there. Yeah. For a comedy special. I was like, okay, this is like a good therapy session, but there's no comedy here.
And I think we spoke about it off camera too, that I feel like, at least for me, some of the reason why some of these comedy specials aren't that special is because we just got out of COVID too. So
why do you think that affects it?
I think because we weren't able to hit as many stages as often as we normally could. So it affects, yes, you might have had good writing, but again, as you know, does that always translate onto the stage? Because I know we've all, or at least I have, I can't say we all, but I have. I've written some shit that's funny and hilarious, and then when I took it to stage, was like, no, that was...
Well, here's a good question. Here's a good question that you just posed right now, probably without even trying to do it, but you just posed a really good question. Is a joke funny if nobody laughs at it? You just said right now you wrote some jokes that, this and that, but it didn't work. Is a joke funny if nobody laughs at it? In other words, when you write a joke, because this is what comics do, they'll write a joke to be like, oh, this is good stuff right here, and then they'll take it around and and it won't work, right? And sometimes they'll turn on the crowd and they'll be like, man, they don't fucking get the joke. Like I'm saying, like they don't understand how funny this is. But the question is, you think it's funny, you're the comic, you think it's funny. Is it actually funny if nobody else laughs? Is your validation of the joke enough to make it officially funny? One person, the person who created the joke.
I guess it could be. I guess it could be because, again, there's also those audience members. I know you've had to have that happen. Is you don't get the response you're expecting because maybe they're internal laughers. Then you get off stage.
Internal laughers?
Yeah. And then,
is
then you get
internal
off
laughing
stage,
actually laughing?
Sometimes, bro. You know, sometimes I've performed and gotten fucking, belly laughing, ha, 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 and then I can't sell no fucking merch.
Yeah.
And then you perform in front of a crowd where you're like, ha, 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 and you're like, the energy sucks in this room. And then I go sell merch, and I'm like, how the fuck did I sell all that merch?
Yeah.
Where the hell was all that laughter at? So, yes, sometimes it's internal laughing. You know how many times people were, hey, well, or because they were around their family and didn't want to laugh. And that was, so sometimes, yeah. Sometimes it is internally where, again, that's what bugs me out as a performer sometimes is because I've been to those shows where I'm like, man, I fucking made motherfuckers laugh. I'm going to sell out all my merch, and I'll be lucky if I sell one goddamn shot glass and make an extra $10. And then I've been to those shows where hardly, and then like, hey man, how many more shirts? How many, that happened at your show last week.
Yeah.
And I had a good performance, but, everybody came to say hi to you. And it wasn't until the last couple that was near the bar.
Right.
Homegirl bought a whole box of shot glasses.
She bought a whole box?
A whole box. And was like, you got any more? And I was like, not on me. And I was like, I got shirts. And she was like, but I don't want the shirt. Damn. Like, but I bought 12 fucking shot glasses.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I was like, oh, okay, cool. I didn't think you enjoyed it that much.
Right.
So it's instances like that. So when you ask the question, you're like, is it funny if nobody laughs? Yeah, sometimes it could be. Because sometimes you might be an internal laugher, I guess.
Right.
So
internal laughter. I'm still a little intrigued about this term. What does internal laughing look like? Show me.
It's like you fucking maybe.
What?
Because as a comic, isn't that like I want that out of body experience that gets them to just get up and clap and fucking like for me that's
skip the laughing and go straight to clapping.
Yeah, fuck that. Yeah. How many times have you seen a comic? I do that shit all the time where I'm like, oh my God, that shit is fucking hilarious. Yeah. And I can't even get the laugh out, but I'm like, yeah. Like, oh. So yeah. I mean, it comes in all different
That's not internal
form.
laughter, though. That's not internal laughter.
That's outer clapping, internal laugh.
anything to not say it was just laughing or not laughing. Motherfucker said inner, internal, outer clapture, laughter, schmafter, raptor bastard. Okay? Bro, that's hilarious. Internal laughing. I've never heard of that shit in my life.
But I know you've seen it, bro. I know you've seen it. I know you because again, there's been audiences where you're like, "Fuck, man, it didn't feel." And then at the end of the show, everybody, man, you were or that's even worse because they do that shit a lot at the show too, where you'll be standing next to another comic and they'll be like, "You were funny." And you were too. Like, that he didn't mean that you were too.
No, he for sure didn't mean that.
I'm like, get the fuck out of my face with that pity fucking you were too, man.
Listen, bro, but that's on you though, dog. Here's what you got to do. Every time you see somebody else getting a compliment, step the fuck away from them. don't be within range to get a pity compliment.
Again, it's happened more where someone has come up to me.
Right.
And I'm like, hey, you heard that, right?
No, bro, if anybody is complimented around me, I take 2 steps to the right. I get the fuck out of the way because I don't want a pity compliment because if we're on a show together and that person was clearly funnier and I just happen to be standing there like a fucking schmuck and they say, great show to the other person, when they look at me, unless they're an absolute monster, they're going to be like, you were pretty good too. And then just fucking walk away. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I don't want none of that shit, bro. I don't want none of that at all. No pity laughs. No pity congratulations. You know what I mean? I'm good. I'll pass. Skip on it.
Again, it's the life of a performer, right?
Yeah.
We're looking for acceptance from a bunch of fucking people we've never met to begin with. You know what I
Yeah,
mean? We're
man.
looking for, man, we need to entertain you. Bitch, I never met you in my life. Why?
Ever. What do I know about you?
You could be a fucking pedophile or a piece of shit human being. I don't know, but for some reason, I need to make you laugh and entertain you. So we got something wrong with us to begin
Right
with,
out the gate.
So,
That's wild though, man. I mean, I suppose we are just out here like entertaining people, but I don't know, man. Like, I feel like it's something else, bro. Like, stand-up comedy is more than just like entertaining people. It's like people come out to see somebody say some shit that they would like to say, that they would like to hear out loud amongst other people. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's nice to hear somebody say some wild shit, you know? Because if you can't say it, you live vicariously through that moment.
have you ever done spoken word?
Never.
No. All right. Well, I tell people that's how I got my start. I used to do
Spoken word?
I used to do big fucking spoken word things.
Do you know do you remember any of your poems?
Not offhand. Not offhand. Because I never really memorized. Actually, there was a poem that I wrote because I keep it as an anthology, as a book. So I keep all my poems in a book. So when I pass away, I can pass it on to my kids.
Let's.
And I know one of them at the end. I was listening to 50 Cent's "Might Die Tonight."
Yes.
And I wrote a poem to that, and it was like,
You wrote a poem to a song?
yeah.
How do you do that?
Because it rhymes anyways. All my poems rhyme.
Yeah,
right?
but oh, you mean you wrote a poem to like the instrumental?
Yeah, it was like,
so you wrote a rap.
Die tonight, and if that's right, go ahead and take my life. I'm tired of living. I'm tired of living. I'm tired of sinning. I'm tired of giving much more than I get back. As a matter of fact, let it be said, the words that were wrote and quote before I was dead goes like this: take care of my kids, both Drew and Sean, before I was gone. Thank you, Mom. Like, you know, I just kind of fucking went on with it like that.
Yeah.
And that kind of, so that's how I wrote that shit. And normally that's how I wrote. But to make my point is, I tell people, I also wrote a poem about that shit, right? I wrote a poem about doing poetry versus stand-up.
What's the difference?
And because I went to a poet slam, and I know I had one of the dopest poems that night. Right, it's my go-to poem that I come out with, and I didn't get passed on. And somebody comes out, and I feel like there's certain types of poets out there. There's the very descriptive poet that has nothing to say, but has a beautiful essay that he wrote, right? And has a very large vocabulary, and we're glad. It would sound great in your English class, but has no substance.
Right.
I said there's that Captain Kirk poet. You know, the one that talks like this.
Captain Kirk.
I fucking hate those poems, right?
Why did that become so popular? Because I feel like that's literally how I imagine a poetry slam. I am out here feeling my feelings wherever I go, and I go wherever I am.
So this is how I'm referencing all those poems, right?
Yeah.
And then there's like people that will talk about their shoes or whatever, like have no feeling. Like every poem that I've ever written is because I lived through it. It was something I dealt with. It was like one of them is me talking to God because I was big in a DMX where I was like, oh, I like the way he writes his prayers. Yeah, I could see myself barking and shit too. So I left that night, and when I didn't go on to the next thing, and some bitch talked about her shoes and went on to the next round. No substance. I went home. I was mad, bro, but I wrote this dope ass poem, and the poem was about my ex-girlfriend being poetry, and now I met a new bitch who's comedy.
Whoa!
And this bitch like takes me on a different level, like, and the fact that I realized that night, I go, there's the big difference is in poetry, you're going to get a clap and an applause at the end no matter what.
Right.
But when comedy and you write a shitty joke, oh, you're going to know like that.
Yeah.
You're going to know, time to take that shit back and rewrite it.
Yep. Or burn it.
Yeah. Or you know, sometimes I'll write a joke and I'll keep it and add it as a tag for a joke that probably will be something 5 years down the line or some shit. So Never really throwaway material. I'm just like, well, I didn't write it in right there for now.
Yeah.
Let me keep it somewhere. So, yeah, poetry's different than comedy in that way.
Interesting. Poetry. I didn't take you for a poet, man. But now that I think about it, though, because I know you like Nas, I know you fuck with a lot of like the East Coast hip hop, which is basically poetry over, a rhythm. So I can see it now. How long did you do poetry before stand-up comedy? How many years?
Shit, man. Probably since high school. I've been writing since high school.
So when did you start stand-up comedy?
But I didn't start. See, that's the other thing is I started comedy in 2009, but when I lived in Virginia from 2000 2004, every Tuesday I was at a comedy club in Virginia Beach, and I just got too scared to go up. I would go with friends, and I would go, and dude like called me out. It was their open mic night, and I was like, man, I'm gonna go up there. I'm gonna go up there, and I went with a friend one night, and dude started talking about my hat or some shit, and I jabbed back, got the crowd to laugh, and I was like, this is gonna be my night.
Yeah.
And then he was all, what, you want to come up here and do comedy? And I was like, no, I'll just sit here. Like,
hold up, he called
so
you
I
up?
bitched out, yeah. So I bitched out.
Bro, that would have been your shot right there.
Shit, I could have been big time already.
Immediately.
Right?
So famous overnight.
Yeah, because shit, that was big when Pharrell and all that shit was big now,
bro.
You know what I mean? So,
and you've been chasing that dragon ever since, huh?
Yeah, so I left Virginia Beach, moved to LA, and that's right around Def Poetry Jam.
Right.
I don't know if you remember that.
I remember that, yes.
So that shit was live in LA. And half of those dudes that are on Def Poetry Jam were at the poetry slams. So I'd be like, man, I saw this motherfucker on HBO last week. I saw him on HBO last week. And I'm like, man, I'm going to do this shit. And there's the same way there's a comedy circuit as there's a poetry circuit.
Yeah.
And they're like almost every night, even out here in the Bay too. Because I don't know if you've ever gone to off of Shattuck's. What is it? In
The
Berkeley.
Starry Plow?
The Starry Plow, yeah. This shit's cracking on a Tuesday,
I've actually been there for a poetry slam.
So,
yes.
So when I was in LA, I was every night at some kind of poetry slam, rewriting, trying to do something, do this, and to be honest with you, I think I've said this before on the podcast, is when I moved up here and started finally doing comedy, and I only started doing comedy because I got divorced, had extra time on my hands, and then I was like, fuck it, man, I'm going to do it. And then I caught that bug, and I started doing it, but what was I going to say? I was going to say that it just, to go do poetry after I started comedy, it was lackluster. Like I said, it was
interesting.
It was like, man, this new girl is way
it's different.
Yeah,
because you already know, bro.
Bitch.
Like in poetry, bro. It's like I would imagine. I've never done poetry. I mean, even though I am a poet at heart, but in poetry, you have nothing to challenge you. Because, like you said earlier, everybody's going to clap.
Yeah, but you must have it somewhere, because I've heard you spit bars before.
Oh, yeah, no, I got bars.
And I feel like any lyricist,
yeah,
if
I ever did poetry, I would do it in the form of me just basically reciting my bars. Which is basically what poetry is. Am I wrong? You know what I'm saying? So
at least the poetry that I write.
Yeah.
Everything for me has to rhyme. And yes, I'm old school 80s. Everything rhymes at the end of the line. There's hardly anything in the middle of it.
I'll just be reciting my bars, dog. And but that should be appreciated though, right? I mean, because that's poetry. That's just a form of poetry.
But you never had that experience where you took your song to somebody and was like, hey, babe, listen to this, or hey, homie, check this shit out. Like, and I think you have that same appreciation when you write a good poem.
Yeah,
too,
for sure.
And I don't know about, maybe because there's more of a format when you're writing bars. That's why when somebody's like, give me a 16, I'm like, I don't know what a 16 is.
Right.
Like, I know what it is, but just like a poem, everybody's asking me, well, how do you know you're done? I'm like, because it's kind of like a painting. Right. I'm not done until I'm done with that last stroke to the canvas. Like, until I've conveyed that poem the way I wanted it to be conveyed, I ain't done yet.
Right. What did I hear the other day? It was some reel on Instagram. I was just like fucking doom scrolling, and something came up with this guy who's a tattoo artist or something like that. And they were talking about this exact topic. How do you know when a piece is done? So this guy who's a tattoo artist, he was asked that question, and he said, well, I used to know this painter who was like a phenomenal artist, and I asked him the same question, how do you know when a piece is done? And he goes, when I look at it and I get emotional about it. And not like in the emotion of like, you start crying, but you just feel like you feel in your heart like you've done everything you can for it, and there's nothing else you could do. You feel bad because it's done. That's it. And now anything you do after this is just bullshit, but you feel like, okay, there's like a sadness, because you're done with the piece. He goes, and that's when I know I'm done with it. When I get a little bit emotional about, like, when I look at it and I'm like.
So when you wrote your lyrics, is that the way you wrote it, or you were trying to get in that 16 and that was it?
Nah, my shit is more, I mean, I've written a bunch of lyrics, but like when I do write lyrics, I'm just trying to basically do a 4-bar limerick. This is the way that I write. I'll because usually they'll ask for like 16 bars or whatever they ask for. It'll be 8 bars for a hook or 12 bars for like a regular verse. 16 is like a full rapper's verse, I guess, But it's always increments of 4. So my thing is like whenever I write, I just write 4-bar limericks over and over and over until I have 16 bars or 12 bars or whatever I'm trying to do.
So you're always doing a 4.
I'm in my mind. But here's the thing though. Once you start understanding what 4 bars feels like, then you could start meshing it with other styles. But it doesn't really matter because your mind is focused on just writing 4 bars, and that's what makes the path for me. Is knowing that, how many bars you need? 12? Okay, cool. Let me write 4 bars 3 times. And then I could, in my mind, I say to myself, I could focus on each 4 bars really closely, just focus on them. They're isolated, make them dope, and then move on to the next 4. And by the time I'm done, by the time I know it, I got 12 bars.
See, that's the reason I don't think I could be a rap artist is because if I can't fit them in that 16, I'm going to keep going. And I've done it on some of my songs.
Well, you can.
That I've put out where I'm like, and I've had my producer, my boy Dirty do shit. And he's like, that's not a 16, right?
Right.
And he goes, that's a 21 bar. Who does? And I'm like,
yeah.
Who gives a fuck? Like,
but do you know the answer to that question though? Who gives a fuck? Like most people give a fuck because the 4 count increments, like the 4-bar increments, there's a reason why that shit is so prevalent, because to the ear is very satisfying to do a 4-bar thing. When you hear 5 bars or 6 bars or 21 bars, an odd ass number, not an increment of 4. If you're the listener, it sounds very awkward, like it's cut off too early or went on a little bit too long. The 4-bar increment is like the natural. Tum 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 tum. If it sounds like this, it sounds weird.
I think it's on regular songs too. There's a pattern and there's a rhythm.
No, but
that you should follow. That makes it easier for the listener.
But when you talk about 21 bars though, that's why it sounds so weird. That's why you're
bars. Not my
It ain't about the quality of the bars though. It's the count, because the bars are not your content. The bars are your count. But something tells me that your bars are everything.
They're everything to me, Rudy.
Everything to you.
God damn it. And fuck the listener.
Well,
again, sometimes I make my shit for me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I'm not caring what you think about the song.
Right.
Ultimately I'm going to ask, hey, what's your thoughts? And then I'm going to hear you and I'm be like, whatever.
Bruh, no, you're going to hear your song and you're going to be like, oh shit, Rudy was right. This shit sounds weird. I'm telling you, bruh, you listen to anything and anything other than a 4-bar count increment of 4, it's going to sound weird. Wait till you're probably never even going to do it. You're not going to spend no 21 bars.
No. I'll let you listen to one of my songs. I might clip it on here as well. And
I'll give you my music video that I did with my little cousins like 3 years ago.
Yeah, okay.
And
I think you might have heard my song before.
It's a rap video. My cousins are 4 and 5 years old, and we just fucking spit bars, bro. It was a
4 and 5 years old?
Yeah. You ever seen a 4-year-old rap?
No.
Bars. This motherfucker's raw. No, I'm playing. But you know what though, bro? We should, as a follow-up to this video, we should go do a spoken word open mic.
Oh, we should.
Let's do it.
Are you down?
I'm super down,
I've done
dog.
it before. So,
I've never done it. I'll follow your lead.
The only thing that I would like to do, and I haven't done, and I wanted to do at my home club too, because again, I think we talked about this off camera. Is I want to. So when I started comedy, I used to do a poem called "Once You Go Brown," right? And Mike, the dude with the cane and shit that don't work there no more, he came to me after about a year or two and was like, "Hey man, can you not do that poem shit bullshit? Like, we're here to hear jokes." And I was like, "Yeah, but it's a funny poem."
Yeah.
And he's like, "Yeah, but this ain't the place for it." Right?
Oh, shut the fuck
So I let him get into my head because I've been wanting to redo a show, and I want half poetry and half comedy. And again, I've had like rap concerts and comedy. Don't combine those two together.
Right.
You get trouble.
That's terrible.
Right? You get trouble. But poetry, people know. They're coming out, they're listening. You got the same kind of audience as you would as a comedy show.
Right.
You know, so
And poetry comedy is fucking hilarious.
and yeah, I I like dudes that play the guitar and shit. Yeah, I look at it as a shtick, but it's funny, right? So funny's funny. So, but I would love to do that. So I'm down to even add it to the birthday show shit. So
Everybody should write you a birthday poem.
But I feel like if I did it. Even the last time I did the poem, I didn't memorize my poem. So
You gotta memorize it, dog.
memorized.
Yeah.
And I feel like a memorized poem has a better way for the viewer.
Yeah, because the person who's reciting it, like, they own it. So when they're doing it, they're like fully committed to the poem. Sometimes when you read it, it just takes away the juice. You know what I'm saying? It takes away like the power behind it if you're reading it, because you're just following the words on the page. But when you know it, it looks like it's coming from you. From your fucking spirit.
It's like DMX on Dr. Phil.
On Dr. Phil?
Yeah, you never seen that shit? DMX on Dr. Phil?
What did he do? What was he doing on Dr. Phil?
Was
he rapping?
But they brought up his lyrics, and Dr. Phil was like trying to read them, and he's like, "No," and then he had the whole crowd. It was a bunch of old white people in the crowd, and it was like, yeah, it was.
Oh man, DMX has a great point. What was he saying though?
He was just saying the lyrics to his songs.
Hey, yo, dog.
But he was talking about how X had an addiction problem and and everything else. So that's what the episode. I hadn't watched the whole episode, but I catch the little clips that come on.
That's
YouTube
crazy,
Shorts
bro.
or TikTok,
DMX.
but just to hear him, X had that way of being, because he memorized and he goes. Even Dr. Phil asked him. Or did you write this? And he goes, I couldn't call myself an artist if I didn't write my own shit.
But Charlie Murphy, my main man, Rick James. That's the one you think, the comedian Rick James. Get up.
I can't hear my neighbor crying, I can't breathe.
Don't forget to hit the subscribe button, as well as the notification bell. Thank you for watching.